I request our panelists for the next session, Green Financing and Policy Framework, to join me on the stage. Shri Jayant Thomas ji, Shri Gaurav Saxena ji, Shri Pritish Biswal, Karan Arora ji, Shri Senthil Kumar ji, so I would request you to take this. Shri Jayant Thomas ji is Secretary, Ship Agents Association. Shri Gaurav Saxena ji is Director with PwC, and where he focuses on transport and logistics sector advisory. Shri Pritish Biswal is also from PwC India and is Sustainability and Climate Director. Shri Karan Arora ji is with GIZ India, an energy advisor with them. Shri Senthil Kumar ji is Digi Shipping. Thank you all for joining me. And I'm Hina Goswami, editorial consultant with IGPP. And I know we are running short on time, so without taking any more time, we'll just begin the session. So the session pertains to green financing and policy frameworks. And I think talking about money is what makes the world go round. The Indian government has made significant financial and policy stride to ensure that there's green transition happening with a 25,000 crore Maritime Development Fund. Central to these efforts is also Shipbuilding Financial Assistance Policy, which offers up to 30% funding for vessels powered by clean fuels. There is 1,624 crore support package to help Indian shipping companies remain globally competitive while transitioning to green operations. A 15,000 crore viability gap funding plan to support this transition, along with 81 public-private partnership projects that are worth 42,300 crore focused on sustainable port infrastructure. My question I begin with Shri Jayant ji, and please do tell us that are these measures, the financial measures taken by the government of India, enough to fulfill the financial needs of greening the maritime sector? Are there any other international mechanism that the Indian shipping sector can partake in to ensure that the green transition is smooth without causing pain to the industry? Jayant ji. Yes. Yes, yes. Just a minor change. I also request Shri Gaurav Thakur ji from GM Baxi Group to join us on the stage. Yes. So please keep sitting.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and since I represent the Tuticorin shipping fraternity, I'm basically an operational person and a person who deals with the day-to-day business. So I would like to bring to the forum how we as the basic ops people look at these business initiatives as a common man's representative and a common businessman's representative. To begin with, I would like to start with how do I move the slides? Can you please help me? Yeah, so this is a quiz. I would like to everyone to just pay attention. It has 3 images and a symbol. And from this, can you find out what it actually represents? It's a English term. It's a metaphor. The clue is there. Yeah, camel to Cadillac. Yeah. So when we are talking about something that we need to move from a traditional setup to a rapid transformation, I think this topic really fits in. We as the operations people think about green energy in one manner, but the level of discussion that happens here is highly technical and I think the common people or the common industry businessmen have to transform ourselves from a traditional setup to a very modern business scenario. So this is what the explanation is. So on one side we have the policy or the targets which India has. I think by 2030 the carbon intensity of our economy has to be cut down to less than 45, and by 2070 we have to hit net zero. But what is the ground reality? What are we as the basic shipping people experiencing on a day-to-day basis with regards to these? Let me put up, if suppose some TV interviewer comes and, reporter comes and asks question about the green shipping or the industrialization that is happening in and around Tuticorin, as a shipping executive, I would be telling that, okay, now Tuticorin is in the limelight, we are getting new industries. We have Tata Solar Power, which has set up their manufacturing facility. They have come up with a 4.3 gigawatt facility. And moment I tell about Tata Power, some object comes to my picture. The solar panel comes to my picture. But and then we have the VinFast, the Vietnam car manufacturer who has set up the factory. And that is something good for us. And moment I tell about VinFast, image of a car comes to my mind. But when I talk about the green fuel companies, there are many companies. What does that come to me? It is just a term. It's a green hydrogen or green ammonia. It's like a green apple. I mean, I don't put a figure to it. I mean, as a product, it doesn't have a individual visibility. And now coming to the way things have happened in Tuticorin in the past few years. I think the first news about the setting up of large green hydrogen, green ammonia plants came up in July 2022. And that was the time, I mean, just after a year, we had the news of Vietnam car manufacturer coming to Tuticorin. Just a year after, but now today, they are ready with a 4,000 car manufacturing facility. They are going to roll out 4,000 car next month. And that is the way things have happened. But when it comes to green energy, we just see few boards stating that the land is allocated to these industries. This is the ground reality which a common man sees. So we don't have an identity of the product. We don't have an identity of our visibility of what is going to come. This is where a common man in Tuticorin would be. And thankfully, Tuticorin Port is taking a lot of initiative. We have a prototype of how green hydrogen storage or whatever it is there. But then it is also not in the public eye. It is in one end of a port. And the public, they talk about green energy, green hydrogen, green ammonia, but it is all something which is beyond our imagination or our... this is where we are. So first issue is visibility. When are we going to have these industries going to come? And when we discuss all this, as Sir rightly mentioned, the discussion itself is not complete. We do not know which fuel is going to come. We are, whether it is going to be ammonia, or green hydrogen, or green methanol. It is not. It is still evolving. And now, as a businessman, I come to the business contracts. I'm not talking about small or medium-sized exporters. I'm talking about a business contract between a logistics service provider and large corporates. Moment we go into such a sort of business, the first thing that comes to us is the RFQ, request for quotation. It runs into several pages. I mean, it runs into hundreds of pages, and it has so many hundreds of clauses, and it will have, and there will be, I have come across one or two clauses like this. Do you have any plans to invest in EV trucks in the next 5 years? Just one question out of hundreds of pages. And when it comes to the evaluation, we submit the RFQ, we submit a price. For example, if it is a transportation, we quote 20,000 rupees for point A to point B. That is the quote. But when the reverse auction happens with the large corporate, the base price that is set is 18,000. It is much lesser than the reverse, the price that we have submitted the quote. And then happens a reverse auction, and where we have to reduce 500 rupees per unit. I mean, that's the measure in which a logistics service provider can quote and try to secure the business. And as the reverse bid is completed, then if suppose there are 5-6 people participating, there is also an opportunity given whether you can match L2. L2 can come and match the L1 price, and we will give you a share of business. And that is the thing. And sad, I mean, ironically, after going through such a ridiculous, I mean, rigorous cost-cutting measure, finally, after halfway through the tender, we again come for a renegotiation of the price. So where does initiative for, I mean, where is the incentive for green initiative? We are all looking at cost. I mean, whether there's a sponge effect, where there is some interest for us to invest in green energy or something to do with green, or even if the smallest intention or a desire is there, because of the price negotiation, we even whatever is there is wrung off and we lose that. Now these are two colors, red and black. These are the financial colors. Every company would not like to be in the red but in the black. A corporate would try to win contracts, competing multinational giants in the race, and never be in the red but in the black. And we as a service provider will also try to somehow do some pricing and make some margin so that we are also not in the red but in the black. But ultimately green is off the window. We do not even think about green. We do not even think about investing in green. I mean, and even in the tenders, we don't have any provision or where there is a incentive for being a company which is supporting the green initiative. Now the second question that is before us is whether it is viability. And third, we as a logistics service company, we also are into the ITV operations where we provide trucks to be plied within the port to carry the containers from the ship to the shore and shore to the ship. And it's all diesel vehicles. And due to the green initiative, there was a request from the port and from the terminal operator whether you will be able to invest in one truck and do some trials. As a company, we were skeptical because the cost is about 3 times higher. But then being part of an experience, we thought, okay, let us try. But normally when we go for a diesel truck, we would have many companies queuing up in front of our office just to get the order. But when we started asking for the EV vehicles, till such time, it started about 2 months back, not even a single company has given us, okay, we have a product and this is the price. We didn't even have a quote, in spite of we running behind them. So now the third question is availability. So these are the 3 things. When we talk about green initiative, these are all corporate board level discussion or policy level discussion. When is it going to come to the common man, a common businessman? And I think that is the challenge that is before us. And second thing, it is all mostly concept. Where is the commercial scale? Madam told about we should not just look at the commercial ships, but look at the fishermen, the sailing vessels, etc. So I think with still many things are in the concept level. I think we need to come to the commercial scale. And most of it is in the policy level, but not a people movement. I had the opportunity of being involved in port in various initiatives, particularly the speeds, where the land is given on 30-year, 60-year, 90-year lease for industries. So we talked about a lot of things about giving large scale of lands to green energy, etc. And being part of the shipping fraternity, I had the opportunity of going around for the green methanol retrofitted ship. But in spite of all this, just like a common man, I am also ignorant about many of the things about green energy and green initiative. So pardon me for my ignorance, but I think I represent a very, very large portion of the common businessman. With this, I complete my speech and leave it to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I must apologize. I think I got a little too excited talking about money. But I think we have a few presentations. Do we have any presentations? Yes, I'm really sorry. Please, can we do the presentation?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll try to keep my presentation short, given the paucity of time. But yes, would yeah would like to take you through what are the key regulations. So basically, IMO 2023 and 2025 are the regulations where the decarbonization of the shipping sector is started. They mandated the reduction in the carbon emissions by the shipping, and 2023 was like that they will give efficiency rating for the vessel, and each year each vessel or the vessel owner have to improve the energy efficiency for their vessels. And IMO 2025 mandates the net zero target that by 2050 the carbon emission by the vessel has to be zero, and that is where. And this has to be the phase-wise emission. By 2030, the 20% reduction, and by 2040, the 70% reduction, taking to 100% reduction by 2050. Now, this required the vessel owners, and this requires the vessel owners to take interventions in short, medium, and long term, considering various factors to reduce the carbon emissions for their vessels, so that they are in line with the requirements, the regulations, as well as also they have to look at the cost. So there are several options available to them. One is, which we have been discussing throughout the day, one is the alternate fuel option. Yes, that switching over to the cleaner and greener fuels, that is one. And then there are other interventions which they would be using in the short to medium term, so that they are within the mandated regulatory carbon emissions requirement, which is including improving the energy efficiency of the vessel, reducing the waste from the vessel, also using solar panels or some other renewable energy to get part power for the vessel. So there would be some, these are some of the ways, but most of it is going to be coming now from the cleaner and greener fuels. And we have discussed again whole day, but these are some few of the fuel options which are there, which shipping companies are looking forward to, including the LNG. LNG is there, then ammonia and hydrogen is there, and then biofuel and the methanol. Now, each options have got their own pros and cons. Like biofuel, you don't have to have any retrofitting. They can be used, so they can bring down their carbon emissions. You can use biofuel, mix them, blend them with the current IFO, and bring down your carbon emissions for the vessel, and is very useful in the short to medium term. Similarly, methanol also, the retrofitting requirements are not very high from the cost perspective. Also, the methanol is not that very high, and that is why methanol could be a potential requirement in medium to long term. So methanol and LNG also could be a requirement in medium to long term. While ammonia and hydrogen are being viewed as of now as something in the long term they would be more viable, given that the technology is going to improve the technology is going to bring the cost down for the green ammonia and green hydrogen. Yeah. So from the cost perspective, basically, as I said, that LNG and methanol, they are on the medium level, but for the hydrogen and ammonia, the costs are currently comparatively higher. And biofuel, it would be lesser because the retrofitting costs are lesser. Now, from a vessel owner perspective, what are the parameters through which the vessel owner is going to decide upon the cost parameter? One, because for him, he has to bring down the carbon emissions across all its vessels. The vessels which are old, vessels which are newly bought, and vessels which they plan to buy in the future. So they have to think through that. Maybe for the older vessels, the retrofitting requirement, they would not want to undertake, so they would opt for a fuel which are easily available without any retrofitting requirements. For vessels for which subsequent age, considerable age is remaining, they may go for the retrofitting requirements. And then for the new vessels, they may look forward to fuel alternative which is going to be in the long term. That is one. Second aspect would be the availability of the infrastructure, or availability of the bunkering options, whether the bunkering options or the support infrastructure for those fuel options is already available. From that perspective, LNG, methanol comes out to be the such one of those options. LNG is available now, multiple ports. At least as a fuel, it is available, and then there is a pathway transition to the greener fuel. Like for LNG, from LNG you go to the biomethane, and from biomethane it is e-LNG. Similarly, from methanol, currently whatever is being produced to the e-methanol, which is the completely green methanol derived from the sources where there is no carbon emission. Now, across the countries, and even that has been what Mr. Thomas also mentioned, the cost is a key aspect, that who is going to pay for this. At the end of the day, there is regulation, but then there is a cost. Okay? So countries, the governments also realize that they are taking those steps, initiatives which include ranging from the financial initiatives which they are providing, also getting involved into the design aspects, that for the cleaner fuel, greener fuel, what would be the engine design or vessel design which is going to be which is going to keep the cost down for the vessels, and also and then providing the support infrastructure for those fuel options. Same way, considering this, Indian government has also is taking several steps. Maritime Amritkal Vision documents, even 2030 Vision document, they they provide government intention towards, and they provide several initiatives which the government plans to undertake towards implementing the greener and cleaner shipping, also towards more sustainable port operations. And several initiatives which they already have taken is, one is the green tag initiatives, and I am aware, I mean, several of the major ports, they are already in the process of procuring the green tags. Then similarly, from the policy level, Harit Sagar Green Port Guidelines, which mandates the guidelines for a sustainable port operations, then Harit Nauka, which mandates guidelines towards the operations for the vessels in the waterways, inland waterways. Then there is another maritime development fund which the madam already highlighted, that their government has provided maritime development fund which would be used for such efforts towards the cleaner and greener maritime sector operations, including the shipping. And then the government is also taking initiatives towards the green shipping corridor. Tuticorin Port is also considering operating such a corridor between Kandla and Tuticorin. So that is again one intervention which the government is. From the green corridor perspective, there are, as I said, Tuticorin and Kandla, that is the corridor which is already identified. Then there are several corridors which are proposed. Now, how the vessels, whether the vessels or when the vessels are going to be operated along those corridors would depend upon several factors. Again, the cost of operating or transporting the cargo through that clean or greener fuel. Also, the availability of the infrastructure, such as the bunkering infrastructure and bunkering facility across these corridors. Also, and the availability of the vessel, such vessels which can be plied on these corridors. So there would be several factors which needs to be assessed, and that is why the government is also undertaking the pilot projects, so that they can see what are the challenges, what are the maybe at the level of government, what incentives may be required to incentivize vessel operators, private vessel operators, to ply their vessels on these corridors. Yeah. I think that would be, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So, I want to come to you, Vaibhav Thakurji, and please tell us that do these measures outlined by the government and the fund allocated or proposed by the government, do they suffice for this green transition?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Sir. Thank you, Deputy Chairman Sir, and all the VOCP Port Authority team members. On behalf of JM Bakshi and Tuticorin Container Terminal, I am representing here. ESG, what a good piece of our Chairman Sir and our MD Sir. This is a book which is available on website. To be honestly speaking, talking about ESG funding, what you are saying, before this terminal started, I came down to Tuticorin terminal with one of our investor. I don't want to name the investor. We landed, we stay here, same resort. And the first question asked by the investor, the banker was, what is your progress or plan for ESG? The first question asked to me was, what is your plan for ESG? And then we had, fortunately, the book of sustainability. So, for the funding part, yes, government funding is incentives as per the Maritime India visions are required, and obviously government has limitation. But being a terminal operator, it's our commitment towards climate change and sustainability. We as the JM Bakshi and Tuticorin terminal feel proud because we are very much committed towards sustainability, focusing on reduction of scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. Couple of initiatives what at JM Bakshi we have taken across all our 12 terminals. Scope 1 reduction, electrification of the equipment. The RTGC, Mr. Senthil Kumar was talking about RTGC crane. Across all our terminal, we have converted diesel RTGC into electrical. Those are done by one of my colleagues, Sunil Kumar is here. He was pioneer into that in conversion of diesel RTG to electrical RTGC. So altogether 57 cranes have been electrified. Then the first cargo or container handling equipment, which is also called as a restacker, the electrical restacker, battery operator restacker has been purchased in operation in JM Bakshi. So right now we have around 25 battery operated electrical restackers. So this is how progress on electrification of the equipments is happening. The scope 2 emissions talking about the electricity consumption from the grid. So we are focusing on the solar panels. Also, we are looking for the flexibility of having power purchase agreement by the third party vendors. Kandla, we have a terminal wherein all 100% energy is through wind energy. So thanks to Kandla Port Authority. And similarly, I think here also we have the green energy from wind and the solar. So thanks to VO, Port Authority team members also. So this is how we are focusing reduction of scope 2 emission. The third challenge for us was scope 3 emissions, which have 14 parameters and indicators. And one of the great challenge for us road transport. All our trucks, which was shown here somewhere, and thank you because background was JM Bakshi crane. So all those trucks are running on fuel and diesel. Now we are coming up with the battery operated trucks. The battery operated trucks, the company name is Energy in Motion. Around 100 trucks are already in pipeline. We last week we got one battery operated truck in Sonipat, DICT. Probably in Nhava Sheva they will be coming up. Believe me, it's a miracle. You won't have to stay like CNG for 1 hour, 2 hours in the queue to do a battery charging for 7-8 hours. We have a swapping machine. Truck will go, automatically the battery will be lifted up, it will go, the battery which got charged, it will be again plug in. Human-less operation, it takes around 17 minutes. So this is how our vision is. When we talk about ESG, this is more of environmental responsibility and commitment towards social is also very much. So safety is one of the aspect, and the governors, I don't know the participants here knows about that Tuticorin terminal is the only terminal in India who has 50% of female workers. So big round of applause, you know. I have been talking to our stakeholder, Hapag-Lloyd Terminals. Do you have such kind of percentage of female workers? They know. They said no. Hardly 10%, 15%. And the first vessel which was handled here, the first container vessel, I had witnessed that. I was there on the ship handling the containers. I got a call from the operations team, and the voice was female. Okay. So it's a great move by JM Bakshi, and our vision to have a terminal with 100% female employees under the diversity and inclusion. So this is how the progress on ESG is happening, sustainability. One more new initiative what we have started, sir, is a zero liquid discharge. Vishaka terminal is the first terminal in India who got the zero liquid discharge certification. That means no waste water is dumped into the seawater or rainwater. It gets treated to the sewage treatment plant, and again it gets reused for gardening, flushing, cleaning the solar panels, for domestic purpose. A day before yesterday, one of the CFS got the certification. So 100% recycle of water is another vision to reduce the wastewater management. I was looking at the Haris Sagar guideline. There are certain environmental KPIs talking about 2030 mission and 2047 missions, reduction of wastewater, increasing the percentage of renewable energy, and so on and so forth. We are very much close to that. Maybe I would say we are far ahead to that. Another thing which I would like to highlight about JM Bakshi is that we have submitted our net zero commitment to SBTI. SBTI is nothing but Science Based Target Initiative, which is globally accredited. And our net zero emission targets have been approved by SBTI, and we are the first in India whose target got approved by the SBTI. So this is our journey, and this is just a beginning. We have a long way to go for E, S, and G.
Thank you, sir. I had the privilege of visiting the Tuticorin International Container Terminal yesterday and interacting with the female employees. And they highlighted that a lot of them who are working there come from humble backgrounds. So kudos to JM Bakshi Group for taking this initiative. But I want to inquire to Senthil sir whether the commitment that Vaibhav sir is talking about from the private sector, the private sector's commitment to ESG, how true is that? Like, how enthusiastic do you find the private sectors in making efforts in envisioning the future in allocating funds for a green transition. Do you think these claims are true or somewhat debatable?
No, these claims are true unless and until if the government and also the private players participate, then only we can move into the transition. And in few minutes ago, you were asking whether the funds allocated is sufficient for green transition by the government. So as you know that MDF has already contributed $25,000, sorry, 25,000 crores, and we have under National Green Hydrogen Mission on $16,000. But let me tell you that there are many ways of financing. So unless until we stick to some way of financing, how to get about it. And in the presentation made by the other gentleman, visibility is the one. So it is also just to emphasize all, even including the private stakeholders, that when organization like IMO, they're bringing into the new regulations in revised tragedy, where the financial means transition to the technologies. They're giving the differential price gap between the conventional fossil fuels, or if the shipping lanes or any entity changes into the green. Just to give an example, in case if a company transits to alternate fuels or anyway, there is also debate that which fuels, but the shipping knows. In the previous session, somebody from Bina has already told there are 300 ships on ammonia. The ship owners know, they know that yes, the only fact is that finance. What is the cost? So taking into that, there is a funds available in United Nations Environment, UNEF, around 5 billion, and the new policy which the IMO is going to bring in, the regulations, will generate around $5 billion US. And remember that shipping is only contributing to around 3% of GHG emissions. It is not only shipping which is going to transit, the global sectors, including shipping, private, government, and everybody. So if all of us knows how to get the finance, how this $5 billion generated in IMO, how you can get the finance, because it is categorically stated that during the debate in the United Nations in various sessions, India has, the DG Shipping has submitted papers that how the funds to be refinanced, funds to be utilized. So we categorically debated and with the coordination with the many member states. So it has been accepted. So once it comes in the extraordinary session in October, and in 2026, if the funds is developed and generated, the shipping companies can take the finance for transition. If a company proves that yes, I have invested, for example, fuel manufacturers, if you generate green hydrogen or ammonia, they can be funded through this fund. It is there in that fund. It's only that visibility that people should know. So India needs to go to the more to the all shipping companies, and a conference like this, we should thank the VOC port chairman, deputy chairman, where interaction with the stakeholders will enlighten the various entities outside world that how to know what is the way to convert, how a fuel manufacturer or green hydrogen hub, which is going to come in Tuticorin and Kandla, it can also be financed by, if we demonstrate that yes, it has been used for shipping. That is the factor. And also various interactions, like you are saying that ESG governance, yes, we can also take funds to prove that if we have established that we produce green fuels, then you can get the finance from that sector. Thank you.
So what is the state of innovative green financing models such as climate bonds or ESG-linked loans or blended finance? Are they being leveraged at the moment by the shipping industry?
Yes, it is being leveraged in shipping industry, but it is up to the member states how to go about for ship financing. It leads to the option. If you go back traditionally, the ships are financed for construction of ship. The various bonds has been made. For example, Japan is the leading shipping building industry, so they get finance for shipbuilding. So as you said, the government of India is also giving 30% for green ships. 20% is outletly given to any ship which is constructed in India. But if you prove that my ship is a green, it can be extended up to 30%. So like that, it's up to the financial institution. So we need to get geared up with the financial institutions, bankers, lending associations to define what kind of financial, like bonds or loans or various ways. In together, they also can approach to the International Maritime Organization to get the funds which is going to be by 2030, around $5 billion US is going to be generated by virtue of new GHG strategy, that is direct compliance method and base targets. So all shipping companies. Why we're stressing on the finance is that India is having only around 1,500 ships, and in that around 300 ships are trading globally. So we don't have much impact, even if 300 ships, the government is ready to convert into green ships. But the volume of exim trade is around 97%. So which will affect the end users, that is the consumers. So due to which we need to finance and interaction with the shipping companies, financial institutions, and the stakeholders.
Dr. Pritish sir, in your experience working with both government and private organizations and in the shipping industry, do you think cost is the only factor that somewhat like impedes the green transition, or are there other factors that come into play? Because given that India has a limited amount of impact on the global shipping industry, the transition may not be as hard. But is cost the only impediment?
So, when you look at decarbonization, when you want to reduce GHG emissions, so it is, our societies, the way we function, the way we have organized ourselves, we have become very logged into fossil fuels, right? We have kind of, the way we function on a daily basis, we have logged into fossil fuels. Now we are trying to kind of, dissociate our economies, the way we function from, burning fossil fuels. We don't want to be dependent on fossil fuels. We want to move away from fossil fuels. We want to go towards alternate fuels, alternate sources of energy, what you call cleaner sources of energy. Now there are three aspects that regulate these areas, right? If you, any area when you're moving to a new technology, there are three things that you need to fundamentally look at. One, that the technology has to be there, right? The technologies have to be, someone has to come up with the technologies, right? You have today for decarbonization, you have technologies such as battery storage. You have technologies like green hydrogen, right? Or green fuel. You have technologies that are emerging like carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration. There are a lot of technologies that are out there. So technologies are emerging for decarbonization, one. Number two, technology will not really take off until it is supported by a good business model. It needs to be self-sustaining. It needs to have a business model supporting it. So the financial aspect comes in. Who's investing? Are there investors? Are there, is the money flowing into that technology? Are there buyers for the technology? So we all, always talk about government programs. Government needs to fund these projects. Government needs to, has to come up with the program to fund money. Now the thing is, government has limited resources. Government has other areas to function in. I mean, the gap between what is required to meet our climate targets in 2050 in terms of finances to where we are today, to the amount that's being spent today, the gap is so staggering that the governments across the world cannot do it themselves. They need the private sector, right? So you need to, unlock private capital or incentivize private sector to move in. That is where you need mechanisms such as, carbon markets. Carbon markets are essentially one way to de-risk, private finance. What you're essentially doing is that you are giving that additional viability. You are bumping up the IRR from an 8% for a project without carbon credits, sale of carbon revenues from sale of carbon credits, to a 14%, which makes the project more viable. So you are, that way what you do, where private sector won't have invested through let's say a carbon market or a blended finance mechanism, you are attracting private investment and making that project feasible, right? So technology is one area. There is finance, we spoke about finance. And third is always, especially in any other sector, but more so in the space of climate, in the space of energy, you need proper regulations. You need government to step in and come up with the right regulations across sectors. May it be the power sector, maybe the shipping sector, the port sector, it could be, the carbon markets itself. The government needs to step in and kind of put the, a framework, a rules-based framework in place so that the players feel safe, the private sector feels safe, comes in and they know what the rules are, they come in and make their investments and they can expect their returns. So these are the three, for every time you want to move away from the status quo to something new, you need the technologies to come in, you need finance, and then you need the regulations. So these are the three aspects the way I would look at it. Yeah.
I'll come to Karan Arora ji on the question of regulation that remains, although I know that you're more of a technological person than a regulation person. But are you happy or the state of regulation that exists in India for making the green transition? What is your overall view on that?
Yes, you asked a very pertinent question, because at the end we are saying that yes, world is one, and we are already talking about synchronization of standards. And what we feel so far, we're talking about shoreside electricity, which is being talked about a lot, not only in India but also in EU, when all the major ports are being foreseen to be mandatorily using shoreside electricity, at least for the time when they are berthed. So they are not dependent on the diesel generators, and then they are running through the shoreside electricity. But what is pertinent is we are already, like, this hype has been going on forever, and we still don't have a very concrete synchronization as far as what kind of cables, what kind of connectors they are going to be, it is going, what if, ship is berthed and we don't have the correct infrastructure, right infrastructure to provide the shoreside electricity. So what is the need of the hour is obviously talking about standardization, and also looking at the fuel aspect. So what may be green in India may not be green elsewhere, maybe in EU. And at GIZ, we tried to address that with India coming up with the green hydrogen certification scheme, where they are defining 2 kg CO2 emissions and what is the well to gate, what are the system boundaries where one has to take care, and what are the GHG accounting methodologies one has to adopt. We have one, but what is followed, what ship is coming is not complying. It is not as per Indian certification. They have RFNBO, guidelines. There, it is well to wake, and that is where one has to have maybe has to take into account that when these certifications, these certifying bodies who are actually certifying the hydrogen or the green fuel. Are they having double fencing? Are they maintaining double ledgers? So it is also altogether becoming, more and more complex. And that's what we tried to address through a white paper that we launched last month, to kind of find a synergy between the Indian as well as the EU-based RFNBO certification guidelines.
Jain sir, how do you view this problem of global standards not being in sync, and what may be considered green in India may not be considered green elsewhere? How do you think your organization deals with that problem? Do we need more international collaboration? Do we need uniform standards? Or do we need some sort of understanding that the needs of each country and the economic needs, social, environmental needs are different, and everybody cannot bear the same environmental burden, because India is definitely not the culprit of climate change, it's a victim.
To be very honest, the entire time and focus for us as commercial people are to make the business happen. So ultimately, I think this industry at a ground level, at a port level, needs a lot of hand-holding with regard to the changes that are happening across. And sometime back we had the low sulfur fuel introduced. I mean, till such time the implementation came, we were all like trying to still make our companies profitable. So I think in terms of these, we need a lot of collaboration and hand-holding, so that we are aware how we need to move from where we are to where we have to be. I think that is what.
My last question to Gaurav ji. Going ahead, what do you think your suggestions would be for both private and the government sector to ensure there's funding available for green transition, or some of the challenges that you would like to highlight?
See, from green shipping perspective, we want to operate, as he rightly pointed out, in IMO 2021, there was requirement mandated that you switch to VLSFO. So whole shipping fraternity, they just resorted that what needs to be done now, how do we reduce it, whether we go to switch to the VLSFO or we put scrubbers and all, and there was a call to be taken. Again, 3 years down the line, now there is decarbonization requirement, you know. So for private sector, yes, definitely, as you pointed out, that hand holding is required, and they require the infrastructure support. Now, from infrastructure perspective, if I choose for a, let's say, any cleaner fuel or greener fuel, whether the bunkering infrastructure is available, what is the cost of that that particular fuel, whether the vessels are available where I can use those fuel. So I want to operate an LNG vessel, whether the LNG vessels are available in the market or not, and what is the charter rate for those vessels. Now with that, whether my cost comes out to be feasible or not. So yes, from private sector perspective, the infrastructure support and all would be required. Secondly, from the government, what is needed is, yes, policy support, as has been highlighted, that it is required. Much more conferences like this where people are become aware that what is available to them, what they can do, including like carbon markets are there through which some level of financial feasibility can be improved. Then another thing from the government perspective would be, as I mentioned, that designs, that governments are into that, what would be the vessel designs, how can the vessel cost could be reduced, because those experiments or those technologies maybe at the government level also can be undertaken. Secondly, from the government perspective, maybe pilot movements, you know, to assess that what are the challenges, whether even with carbon markets, whether there is financial feasibility required, what are those routes where a vessel can be profitably plied, you know, given understanding that the availability of the vessel, understanding the availability of the support infrastructure that is needed. So from government, the support is needed on these aspects, policy aspects, infrastructure support, the assessment aspect, that what would be the challenges with regard to the financial and all, and plus the knowledge dissipation, that, you know, providing that understanding knowledge to the private sector, that these are all the options available to them. And yes, from private sector perspective, yes, definitely that they would be the one ultimately who would need to stand up and invest, yes, in this.
Thank you, sir. With this, now we conclude the session. I'm sorry if I was a little hasty. I mean, people have flights to catch, so please don't mind me. Thank you so much, everyone. I request Deputy Chairman, sir. I request Shri Kavin Maharaj ji to come and felicitate the guests. Thank you, Shri Kavin Maharaj ji, for joining us, and thank you for making time for this event.